I was actually at a company called BuzzFeed, which I'm sure you may have heard of. And this year I'm actually at a new company called Cheddar. And I want to talk to you today about the state of the television industry and how our company Cheddar is kind of changing what we believe TV should be in the future. So without further ado, I'll get started. So we're living in a post-cable era, or what we call a post-TV era. And what I mean by that is television is basically over. By any given measure, it's dead. People aren't watching TV. The declines are enormous. And what I'll show you is pretty staggering. So young people especially are not watching TV. The decline in ages 18 to 24 is 48% over the past 6 years. I mean, that's tremendous. That's enough to get any incumbent media company startled. And even on the older scale, 18% decline. So why aren't people watching TV? What is the reason? What is the catalyst behind this? And how do we solve for it? Well, let's take two incumbents, two well-known US incumbents. You have CNBC and Fox Business. When you ask someone, how many people do you think are watching Fox Business or CNBC at any given time? People will usually say millions, a few million. How many peak viewers? Couple 100,000, 500,000. When you look at the numbers, in a day, a business day, they have 182,000 peak viewers. Peak viewership. This is a major news network. And what about in the demo of 25 to 34, young people? No one's watching this. The median age is 67, 69. It's a retirement home watching this content. So how do you make up for that? How do you take something that isn't working for young people and reboot it? Well, the result is that Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, they've ruled the roost for the past couple of years. They've been the predominant on-demand substitution for not watching cable news. But what happens now? Every incumbent channel and traditional network in the next couple of years will roll out their own OTT system. It's a matter of survival. If they don't do that, they're going to lose the battle. So as you can see, YouTube is rolling one out, Verizon, everyone. So the amount of OTT channels that you'll be able to subscribe to is going to be enormous. So who stands out? Who wins in this war? But people want control. They want to be able to watch what they want to watch, when they want to watch it. They don't want to be given 190 channels, and I'll go into that, but it's all about control. We're living in an era where you should be able to dictate what you have on your TV screen, or your connected screen, or what you're watching via stream. So the times are changing, and it's not that people aren't watching TV, it's just that they're not watching it the same way they used to be. They're watching it via connected devices. 50% increase in the amount of people, millennials specifically, watching TV over a connected device. That's tremendous. If you're in the industry, you have to pay attention to that number. So what does this mean for content creators and distribution networks and producers? It means they need to start experimenting. They need to try different things. They need to, A, fix the cost structure. In the US, approximately, on average, it's $150 to $180 a month for 190 plus channels. Who's watching 190 channels of television? On average, you may watch 15, 17 at most, but the cost structure isn't there. No one is watching this content. And the commercials. In linear fashion, commercials are not, in generally smart. They need to be smarter, the content needs to be better, and you need to be able to control what you're getting. So we see this as two possible bets for the future of content. Either the future will be on-demand appointment viewing, you'll have your Netflix account, your Amazon account, your Hulu account, you'll binge watch episodic comedies and dramas. And then you'll also watch short crap on Facebook, shitty 30-second videos. It'll be all on demand and short little content. And we see a real need for something beyond this. I mean, you are not watching only episodic content and short little videos. There's a need for live linear television. But does that go away? There's certainly a bet where it does go away, and people don't need to see what a window on the world looks like. They don't need to tune into live TV and see what's going on. And that isn't reality, and that's not the bet that we're taking. So at Cheddar, we're going against the bet that you're going to watch 30-second videos on Facebook, and you're going to watch episodic comedies and dramas, and that's it. Our bet is that there's going to be a real need for this live content. You didn't wake up this morning and say, man, I really wish I had some awesome 30-second shitty videos to watch on Facebook that just came into my news screen. No one does that. No one woke up and said, there's not enough fulfilling me in my life and in the content that I'm already watching that I need to watch stunts and salacious videos that are fed to me through an algorithm. And that's what's happening. That's the reality of what's happening on Facebook. The algorithm is pushing you things. And this isn't an impulse that you had when you woke up this morning. This is a result of an algorithm telling you what you should be watching. Our bet, which is the second bet, is that ambient linear television gets rebooted for an audience under 60. So the incumbents that I just mentioned, the CNBCs, the Foxes, they're not targeting a younger demographic of people that are looking to media technology and news content. They're just not. And we believe that people will want a window on the world of what's happening. You're going to want to tune into something and see what stupid thing President Trump is tweeting, or when Uber is releasing a fleet of self-driving cars. We live in the future, and it's important to be knowledgeable. But the existing news media really isn't catering to that, and there's still a real need for it. So our bet is not that you're going to just go home and watch Netflix all day and then watch 30-second clips of video. You're going to tune into something live, and you're going to want something that's informative, that speaks to you. So this is what we're doing to solve for that.
I've got one or two questions I want to get in.
Is there volume?
Okay. President-elect Trump, John Steinberg from Cheddar.
We're right across here from Trump Tower.
We're here right outside of the city of San Francisco.
I'm here at the DirecTV Now launch event.
The co-founders of Reddit.
I'm here with Mark Field, CEO of Ford.
We were really young founders.
Bringing certainty to Wall Street.
They're completely different technologies.
Well, I want to build the greatest marketing machine
around the technology of wellness.
Here with Ron Coughlin, president of HP Personal Systems.
Hey, John.
We're here today announcing a new partnership called What Keeps You Going, which is a partnership between Dunkin' and Cheddar. So you can see right there from the watch list, I could quickly execute a trade like that.
We have liftoff.
The amazing Christy Brinkley.
We've grown well beyond that.
You can just speak to your phone and ask it to order your coffee.
Necessity became the mother of invention.
This is amazing.
Ransomware is an epidemic.
He got mad, see that?
Not have to borrow your pants.
It's Alyssa. Teach me how to parkour.
I'm going to take a picture of myself in its reflection.
Think about the next generation of cable.
It is the future of television.
Cheddar, one of the dominating forces of how we get our information.
You're watching Cheddar!
So we are a new live video news company that talks about culture, talks about media, talks about all of the services and the companies that young people care about. Live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, live from the Flatiron Building. We understand what you need to do to be a young cable network in these days. The incumbents are sitting pretty. They think they're going to capture their 182,000 people for the rest of their lives until they all die, which at some point they will. But we understand that there's a real need for this content out there. And if no one else is creating it, we're going to start. So how do you do this? In the world of media where it's controlled by a disdain for the status quo and also distribution rules the world, how do you create something like this? Well, you need to have a differentiator, 2, maybe 3, maybe even 10 differentiators. Our talent is young. We've picked the best and the brightest from a lot of these incumbent networks because they would have never had a chance on being live. Matt Lauer of the Today Show, he's making $40 million a year. He's never gonna give his seat up. He's gonna die in that chair. And what happens to all of the younger talent that needs a chance to be able to showcase their work? Well, Now Cheddar comes in, and they're able to actually have a real say in what goes on, do the reporting, and they're the ones using the technology. So of course we're going to have them on air. Have the guests that matter. So whatever is relevant in culture, we're capturing the zeitgeist. We may have the older CEOs on of Starbucks when something is relevant, but we really care about the hip, young companies that people care about. We're going to have Instagram on. We're going to talk about Netflix. We're going to talk about Tesla launching rockets on their tails. There's so much out there that young people care about in media, finance, and business news that we're the ones that are going to be able to report on it. You need to be visually vibrant. If people are coming to you to be a window on the world, then you need to look like a window on the world, especially if you're scrolling through a news feed. What are you going to stop on? Are you going to stop on a green screen or two old men sitting in a corner behind something like dull and blue? No. We have two amazing studios, the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, the Flatiron Building in New York City. It's the front and center. It's where things are happening, and that's where you need to be. You need to understand what your audience is looking for and capture that. And be where people watch. We're not expecting people to come and find us. That's the old way of thinking about distribution. Our distribution strategy is so distributed that we want to be everywhere you want to watch. We're on Sling, which is the largest OTT system in the United States. Hopefully we'll be expanding to Europe soon. We're on Amazon Live as one of their first live partners. We're on Pluto TV, the biggest ad-supported video service in the US. We're everywhere. We're on the homepage of Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're basically distribution and platform agnostic, and that's the way people want to watch. That's the result of an industry that is changing rapidly. And while we're not opposed to having a linear channel, it's very important to us that you're not going to have to find Cheddar. It's going to find you. And that's really important moving forward. And I think a lot of people are going to start to pay attention to distribution and making sure that they're spread out across multiple channels and multiple platforms. It's too much to ask the viewer to find you. Own the big days in technology. Find your moment. Maybe it's not tech. If it's not tech, decide what it is and own it. We broadcast the Snapchat IPO live from the floor of the stock exchange. We did it in 360. We were the first ever 360 IPO broadcast. We did that because we knew our audience was interested in Snapchat. We wanted to do it in a format that had never been done before, and we captured it from every culturally relevant angle. We had people on that were investors in Snapchat. We had influencers on. You can't just broadcast it from one perspective. That doesn't work anymore. If you want your audience to be interested, you have to make the content interesting. So this was the first day that we actually broke 1 million views, but it was really a groundbreaking day for us because it showed us we could take something that a traditional network may broadcast in a really dull way, and we can make it vibrant, and we can make sure that our audience is interested in it. Senators and representatives are now coming on our show because they understand that's where they need to be to speak to a younger audience. I mean, we have the people that are going to sway the vote. That's incredibly powerful, so we are capturing that audience as well. Be there first. If the incumbents can't be there because they're too slow, you need to beat them to the punchline. The day that the travel ban was struck down in a Brooklyn court, we were there before MSNBC. They ripped our Periscope feed. Like, that shows you there's such a need for a hustle and to be relentless in what you do and what you're capturing that the older incumbents will never be able to keep up with that. This was pretty groundbreaking for us. So I've told you all the good things, but it's all not puppies and roses. The platforms, in a sense, very much dictate what they want content creators to create for them. It's just a fact. And when a platform tells us what to create for them, we don't want to fall into that trap. Often, when a platform is telling you to create a specific type of content, and I'll use when we approach a platform or when they approach us, they tell us to make our content more BuzzFeed. Now that's great. I love BuzzFeed. I worked for BuzzFeed for a very long time. But not all content should be BuzzFeed. It should be unique to the publisher. Otherwise, it all starts to blend together and become the same. And there are incentive misalignments with doing this, and you want to be yourself. You want to stay true to the content that you're producing. So when a publisher when a platform comes to us and tells us to change the content, we say, no, not so much. We're going to make the content we want to make, and you're going to like it, and you're going to promote it, or you're not. And we're going to find a way to promote it to the audience that cares about it. And as I mentioned, it's a trap. So this chart shows a bunch of different publishers that made about $8 million in the first quarter of the year, mostly from these deals from platforms. And they're getting these checks. They're incentivized through these first-time programs. $8 million is a lot of money. It's a nice check. It's an easy check. You do what they tell you they want you to do, and you make an easy check. But how is that going to work out in the long run? So it's completely misaligned. Oftentimes, they cut these programs a month, 2 months, 3 months in. They decide that it's not the flavor of the week anymore, and that they want to move to the next best thing. I'll give you an example. Facebook. Facebook loved 30-second videos. Then they started to love live. Then originally they pushed games like Farmville and Zynga. And when they were tired of that, they went to instant articles. Then they got tired of instant articles, so they decided to do live. Then they got tired of live, and they decided to push long form. Now they're getting into an original content. It changes every week. Facebook has the flavor of the week that they want to promote. And if you listen to that, you're going to get lost. Your content isn't going to be seen, and you're going to end up in a very bad position. We liken this to an episode of The Twilight Zone called To Serve Man. The aliens come down to Earth. Everyone's really excited. They tell them that they want to share peace and share the technology that they've built. And everyone's a little cautious of their motivations. But hey, the aliens, they seem to be good people. But how does it end? Volume? Is it right?
Mr. Chambers! Mr. Chambers! Don't get on that ship! The rest of the book, To Serve Man, it's a cookbook!
No! No!
So basically, read the rest of the book. They translated the book. It said to serve man. What they actually meant is they were going to serve man. So the saying goes, if you don't know what's for dinner, you're for dinner. This is what Facebook likes to do. Look at the broccoli. Don't you want the broccoli? It's so nutritious. It's healthy. But when you're sticking it in an aisle full of Pop-Tarts and Twinkies and Reese's, no one's going to eat the broccoli. And all of a sudden, you're like, okay, I'll eat a little bit of junk food. But then your entire diet becomes consuming junk food. Facebook is not prioritizing and putting content in a well-lighted space that it needs to perform well. If you put kittens backflipping in hats next to substantive news content, it's not going to work. So here's an example of our programming on Sling. As you can see, we're neighborhooded next to CNN, next to Bloomberg, next to Newsy. They understand it needs a well-lighted place to perform. People are only going to want to see your content in that context. There are no Twinkies and cats doing backflips next to this news content because it wouldn't make sense. But that's what you're seeing in your news feed. Another example, on Pluto, right next to CNBC, right next to the Young Turks. You're going to tune in because you understand what type of content you're getting into. It's newsworthy content. Understand your partner platforms. If you're going to put your content on Facebook, understand what you're doing. If you're going to put your content on Twitter, understand what benefits that Twitter can bring to the table for you. So Twitter is a finance giant and a very engaged community, which is why we decided to partner with Twitter very early on. They put our content in the homepage in a linear fashion. Twitter has basically developed an 8-hour linear day of broadcasting. We are right before Bloomberg. It makes sense. People know what to expect. They're tuning in to watch because there's an expectation of what Twitter is going to provide to them. They know that the community is engaged in finance. You have to pick your partner platforms carefully. Everyone wants to be on Facebook, of course. That's where social views come from. That's what drives the traffic. But there are going to be special partners that are going to give you a whole lot more than the partner that is really trying to serve everyone. and they're also committed to it. Pick a partner that's committed to your craft. Twitter is committed to live video. They've just formed partnerships with numerous other media companies to develop shows. It's live. They care. They're good partners. So what is needed? If you want to capture the attention of young people that are interested, you need to reboot it. All of the older programming isn't going to work anymore. The audience is going to die. Literally going to die. And you need to program for a younger audience. What about Gen Z? What about the people that have never had a cable box, that have never been connected, that don't have any sort of loyalty to a brand or to a channel? You just need to be where they are. Younger talent. Have the talent on air reflect who you want your audience to be. It's so important. Visually vibrant. You want to capture someone's attention. If you're not capturing their attention in the first 5 seconds of them seeing the content, you're not doing the right thing. Modern delivery. Be distributed. Understand where your content's being distributed. We live in a distributed world. We live in a multi-screen world. Be everywhere. And cloud cost structure. What we're doing wouldn't be as impressive if we were doing it with 500 people. We're running an 8-hour live cable network with 65 people. We're able to do that because we work hard, we're relentless, we understand the distribution methods, and we're not beholden to the bureaucracy of a cable network that thinks they need to keep doing the same thing. And program for your audience. Understand who your audience is. Our audience is wealthy, affluent, educated millennials. Get that data and then program for them. Understand what they're interested in. They're interested in products, news, technology. That's what the programming is going to be. If you don't have this data, there's no way you can do it correctly. Business and financial news is our bread and butter, but if our audience wasn't interested in that, we wouldn't be programming that way. And they are the audience that is watching, they're cutting the cord because it's too expensive. Understand where they're watching your content so you can further program for that audience. And make your advertising informative. This is the most important part. When you're solving for the cost structure and also the distribution, you also need to be thinking about the advertising. Advertising has served as a distraction, and on-demand is certainly solving for that. But what about live? If you're reinventing live, you need to reinvent the ad model, which is what we're doing. So we've thought about it this way. When we built native advertising at BuzzFeed, it made sense. People didn't have to click off of an X to actually get the content they wanted to see. They were able to click on the article, and it was a part of an article. It was based on the David Ogilvy advertorial, but it was innovative for digital at that time. The second native 2.0, as we called it, were branded videos, the next version of the commercial. But what's next? What's next for live? Live means the brand needs to be integrated authentically into the programming. And there are so many considerations. Well, is my audience going to be interested in that? Like, does that brand make sense? You need to pick and choose. You need to work with specified partners. Make sure they're committed, but working with hundreds of different advertisers, it's going to fall into the same trap. 2 examples of brands that we work with that make a lot of sense for us is with Dunkin' Donuts. We do a technology segment geared towards young entrepreneurs who have a really impressive lifestyle, and we focus on what fuels them. How do they get through the day? It's a peek into the mind of a very successful person. People want to know, how do you become that successful? What are the keys? So we work with Dunkin' on that. HP owns our technology hour. They are the reinvention company. They want to focus on other companies that are continually reinventing. We also created 30-minute programming slots. This is the first of their kind. A 30-minute original piece of content for a brand, co-produced with a brand. We're not creating this on a whim. We're doing research. We're seeing what works on our existing channels to make sure that when we're programming these 30 minutes, they make sense. Our audience wants to see it. So we created a personal finance show for Ally Bank.
Going to be a different type of show than we've done before, where we're going to focus on the intersection of you and your money.
All about
The Cheddar.
Oh, you were doing it too? I didn't know you were doing it too. Your budgeting, your mortgages, your personal finance.
I call it getting financially naked. It's one of my favorite topics.
If you're a saver and you're dating a spender, you're not going to change him.
Your job, your career, your salary, your credit cards, your interest rates.
Building that emergency savings account, and then aggressively paying off your consumer debt, and then rebuild and continuing to build your savings account.
Your Cheddar, your Benjamins, your guac, your bucks.
You have to stop comparing your life and your lifestyle to everyone else because it's going to affect your paycheck and your bank account ultimately.
How do I kickstart this business? How do I jumpstart it? How do I go from, idea to manufacturing to millions of dollars in sales?
I'm actually pretty excited about this segment because I love calculators and I love walking people through it. Here we go. Here we go. You can afford a $400,000 home.
The 50-30-20 rule is basically using 50% of your income for fixed expenses, using 30% for miscellaneous, and then saving 20% for your financial goals.
This went very well. I'm very pleased with this. That's going to do it for our premiere edition of Your Cheddar, presented by Ally. We'll be back next Wednesday, 9 a.m. with more on Your Cheddar.
So we realized there was certainly a gap in personal finance information for younger people. Our audience didn't understand what kind of a house they could afford in their 20s, what they should be doing to save money to afford something when they're 30. There was such a gap in that information that we felt we could work with a brand partner to create. It's the ultimate extension of a college course that you wish you had about personal finance. Final thoughts. What we're doing is innovative now. What I'm sure a lot of you are doing is probably very innovative. You're here. But the incumbents only stay asleep for so long. The one thing you have to keep in mind is you will never be outcompeted. If you work hard, if you're relentless, if you understand what you need to do to create the next wave of what's happening, you will succeed. We work like crazy to make sure that we are consistently innovating. We are not paying too much attention to the people that are trying to catch up with us because we're so far ahead that we really can't look back. For instance, when BuzzFeed was famous for making the listicles, by the time everyone was making listicles, BuzzFeed was creating original video, and that's what we're doing. From 8 hours to 16 hours to 24 hours, we're reinventing cable. We're reinventing what it looks like to be a post-cable network, and I hope all of you took something out of this that you can apply to your own businesses and your own life, because anything's possible. It's 2017. You can reinvent something. It doesn't need to stay the way it's been forever. Thank you. Happy to do Q&A if anyone has any questions.
How can you do the speed with 68 people against so many other people?
The speed? I'm sorry.
The speed. For the news, especially.
News, yeah. I mean, we have 2 control rooms built out. We have people working in shifts around the clock. We work 24/7. We're producing live news. I mean, you would be surprised how much the other companies aren't doing that we're able to do. There's no bureaucracy. We can make a decision tomorrow to open a studio in LA and produce more content. We hire a few people and we make that happen. It's really about being able to move fast because we're so lean. You would think more people would add to the ability, but it actually slows you down. I think it would be way less impressive if we had 500 people when we were creating 8 hours of programming. Doing it with 60 people, we're able to do anything we want very quickly.
You said you're on 8 hours live?
8 hours live,
during
yes.
the other hours? What program is during the other hours?
Oh, the other hours. It repeats. We do packages in the field. We do long-form interviews with entrepreneurs and executives, and those are taped in packages. But the next step is going to 16 hours live and then to 24 hours live. You just need a few more control rooms and maybe a few more people.
Thank you for your talk. I personally, for example, I stopped watching news because of the, let's say, separation of the different views. And currently on Facebook, we see this echo chamber effect where you only see the news based on the views that you have or your friends have, and
Yes.
the others get alienated. Do you think Cheddar is going to help close that gap, or is it more very like pushed towards a certain type of people?
As it pertains to politics, right now we've really heavily focused on the business of politics and more so how all of the different changes will affect you financially. We do have some ideas on how we want to bridge that gap. Definitely understand that that's a huge problem. I think one idea is certainly, why don't you have mixed views in the same feed? Why don't you create a channel that has both left and right perspectives and expose people to things that they haven't, and ideas that they haven't been exposed to before? Why doesn't that exist? Because people are stuck in their ways. I think we could, you could easily do it, and we'd love to venture into that space.
First of all, thanks for your time, and I think one of the questions that always comes up, why Cheddar?
What's
Cheddar? The name? What's
so Cheddar, money. It's a slang term for money. The colors, as you can see, are pink and yellow. We chose those purposely because they're very feminine. And a lot of the older financial news sites are very masculine. They're blues and they're blacks. And we're not that type of company. We're a little less polished. We break the fourth wall. We're exciting. We're new, and we wanted to have a logo, a name, and colors that represent that. Well, thank you so much, and I'm around. So if you want to grab me, but please check out Cheddar. I hope you all enjoy it, and hopefully we come to Europe very soon. Thank you.